Seekers of greatness, dreamers of the impossible, and action takers on the path to success. I'm Daniel Craig Johnson, and I'm amped to be your personal guide on this exhilarating journey to self-discovery, business mastery, and life transformation. Strap in because you're about to blast through barriers, obliterate limitations, and sculpt the life you've dreamt of. Hello everybody, welcome back on the Success Blueprint. This is Daniel, your host. Today I'm very excited to have a guest on the show again. You remember I've posted on Facebook that I would like to ask my listeners and everyone that is following the podcast to come up with some nice ideas or themes to talk about interesting topics. And I had a great response. One of the responses was Ian. I have Ian Ludick on the show today. He gave me 4 topics and one of them was building a personal brand. So I've invited Ian onto the show. Ian is the owner of Best Web Design and Ian will introduce himself and the company just now. And we're going to talk in this episode specifically how to build a personal brand. Welcome, Ian, on the show. How are you doing?
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I'm doing perfectly well, thank you. It's a beautiful sunny day in South Africa.
Great. I'm very great. Yeah, sun is good. We're just battling with all the issues that we have with load shedding. So it's very hard to coordinate time schedules and always get something together where both people have electricity. But I guess that's the things that we have to deal with. And it fosters resilience, which is also important when you're a business owner or have a personal brand. Isn't that correct?
No, that's definitely for sure. I think we need to be resilient, and that's the only way we stay on top.
Okay, Ian, tell me something. Best Web Design. Tell me a bit about Best Web Design, what company it is, and then maybe also introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your career background.
No problem. So Best Web Design is a digital ad agency that focuses mainly on design, development, and marketing. We essentially craft online experiences from lead generation websites, e-commerce sites, all the way to mobile applications. And then we obviously market them for our clients to give them a return on investment. Best Web was started in 2019 and we basically assembled a small team when we realized that there's a need for micro agencies that can deal with SMEs in a bit of more of a flexible manner. And we've been growing since, and currently we're 20 teams strong.
Fantastic. That is great. So let's get right into it because our listeners are waiting and we got some interesting questions to ask you. And I will throw you a bit in the deep end every now and then with some questions that you might not be expecting. So let's have some fun together.
Awesome. Super excited.
So personal brand. Explain to me, what is a personal brand and why is it important in today's world?
This is one of those questions that I often get asked because, people sometimes misunderstand the idea of personal branding. But essentially, the best way for me to describe it is it's your unique signature in life or in the professional world. It encompasses skills, experiences, and the values you embody. And in today's vast digital landscape, a personal brand can really help you to stand out.
Yes. And to stand out when I coach clients on leadership or on business skills, young entrepreneurs that want to start businesses, what you very often see is that they tend to disappear in the crowd because, today with the vast offering that you have in any kind of business, very often it comes down to nuances. And you're offering a service that many have offered before you and many will offer after you. And there is very often in the market that we are not much that we can do to differentiate ourselves, but it comes down to small little nuances like customer experience and the way that you position yourself in the digital market. And I think that makes the big difference when it comes to a personal brand. What is your take on that?
Definitely. I think when we need to compete with all the different intricacies of marketing and business, and, there's a lot of competition in the industry and it's not going to end. But I always say that, with competition, it's a good thing because you learn from others and you can learn from yourself. And when you stay competitive, that's how you sharpen your swords.
I totally agree. So tell me, Ian, what inspired you to focus on personal branding as a topic of expertise?
Awesome question. So, in my initial years of the professional career, I became aware of this powerful interplay between a person's image and how it can project their career. I noticed that those that had a very personal brand had an edge over others, and they were able to really articulate their value proposition clearly and effectively, which positioned themselves in their respective industries. I think that realization ignited a passion in me to dive deeper into the nuances of the personal branding, simply to kind of fine tune my own trajectory. I eventually realized that I can assist others in carving out a distinctive niche to help them stay competitive within the market. Truly, this journey has been immensely rewarding, and I've had multiple opportunities to work with diverse individuals, helping them identify, build, and leverage their personal brands.
I agree with what you're saying. And I think for someone like you to then assist people to navigate that vast forest or that vast landscape must be extremely rewarding.
No, definitely. I think it's one of those things where, people come with different problems. For me, my nature is to solve them. I think with the tools that we have out there these days, it's a lot easier than the past, and you can really get creative and solve those problems effectively.
Tell me, Ian, what are the key elements when you talk about personal branding? What makes up a strong personal brand?
So I think, like with anything, a brand really entails quite a lot of things. But I often tell my clients that you're looking for the V trifecta, which is something that I kind of coined myself, but it's self-explanatory. It's elements of visibility, value proposition, and your voice, which becomes very imperative in creating a successful personal brand. Visibility entails being seen and recognized in the right circles where your target audience obviously congregates. Value proposition involves articulating and showcasing what sets you apart from others in the field. This could be a unique skill set, a novel approach to common problems, or a depth of experience that you bring. And voice, which is my favorite, refers to the unique way of communicating your message to the world. It reflects your personalities, your values, and your style. If kept consistent and authentic, it can really help build trust with your audience.
Yes, I agree 100%. And I think when I coach business and when I coach people, very often, and that refers to business, it refers to life in general, very often you find that people have not defined what they actually are, who they are, and what they are doing, and why they are doing it, and for who are they doing it. When you ask someone why they are creating a business, very often you get to points because they're seeking something. They might be seeking a bigger picture, but when you drill down and you ask, what is it that you exactly want? What is your value proposition? What makes you different to all the 100 other providers or thousands of other providers that are offering the same service? Then very often they get stuck and they don't have clear answers to that. How is your experience with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think we've become accustomed to a copy paste culture where, we see so many people that come from nothing and make it big, and we tend to pivot too often, too quickly, without understanding why we pivot.
Yeah, pivoting, a very, very important word. And it comes down to being in motion, but not actually achieving something or really taking action. Being in motion, as in, I have an idea, I tell everyone about it, I get that instant gratification from everyone that says, oh, wow, you're going to write a book, or wow, you're going to create a business. But very often it ends right there because the mission, the vision, the brand visibility things, the points that you discussed just in the last questions, or haven't really been carved out appropriately. And I understand that that is exactly where you come in and help your clients. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's hitting the nail right on the head. I think that, anyone and everyone can create something. I think everyone has the ability to be creative, but often I feel that people tend to not have structure when it comes to creating. When you look at some of the best figures out there that are really making a name for themselves, often ask yourself, what are they doing differently from what I'm doing? And I think a lot of these big names out there, often, if you look deeper into the ability to create, it's often they have the structure and they've created a structure. And once you've created structure, it's very easy to understand where you're going, where you're at, what needs to happen, where you need to improve, where you perhaps are good, and you can kind of pat yourself on the back.
Yes, 100%. I agree 100%. Can you share some examples of individuals who have successfully built and leveraged their personal brands? What comes to mind?
I think there's obviously plenty to choose from, but if I had to kind of focus on the top of my head, 3 individuals that stand out to me would be John Cena, obviously the well-known Trevor Noah, the controversial Elon Musk. I think, if I can quickly just summarize what these guys, stand out for is, John Cena is someone that I've recently met. He's a futurist speaker and an author who constructed a brand centered around innovation and forward thinking, offering fresh perspectives on societal progress through various platforms like LinkedIn. And his expertise in foreseeing trends has made him quite a prominent figure. And then you get people like Trevor Noah from a South African comedian all the way going on to hosting the Daily Show in the US, how he's crafted a beloved brand characterized with sharp, witty, and authentic storytelling. He utilizes humor in a very unique way, addressing crucial issues and obviously reaching a broad audience globally. And then Elon Musk, a modern pioneer steering innovative projects through companies like SpaceX and Tesla. I think his brand mirrors his futuristic visions with a very controversial presence, which keeps him constantly in the public eye. But it can have its downsides, but it also fosters a direct connection with his audience.
Yes, they say any attention is good, whether it's bad or good. If someone is still interested in you and talking about you, then you're still on the radar, and that's important.
Yeah, where there's light, there will be shadow.
I agree 100%. Funny enough that you mentioned John Cena. He's a very good friend of mine, a close friend of mine. We know each other for many, many years, and I know that he has built and lost many businesses. I know the time when he started with his speaking, when he started with the book writing, and he started with his journey. And he's fascinating. The way that he laser focused on what he wanted, how he wanted to achieve it, how he employed the right people, brought the right teams on board, and created a brand that now, if you don't know John Cena, then you're definitely missing some education in terms of his speaking, his clarity of concept when he engages with audiences, the way that he presents himself in the public eye, the way that everything that you look at in his social media presence, in his web design, the way that they execute their podcast, I think it's called The Expansive. And when you look at all his presences, it is so thought through. There's so much focus there. And that, I think, is something that really only a few can achieve. What is your take on that?
Yeah, he's definitely very inspirational. And I think that he has, like you mentioned now, built something over years. It wasn't something that happened overnight, which is often what, the world sees. They see this success and this great figure, positive light, but they don't really see the work that goes in background to create that and the failures that he had to persevere through. I think in the end of the day, to me, he's a great inspiration, and I'm sure to many others. Definitely, I think anyone can create, and I think anyone has the ability to achieve great things.
Yes, absolutely. And brand themselves and set themselves apart and position themselves as thought leaders or leaders in their industry. And that takes that approach that you really try to be perfect, or I wouldn't say perfect. I always like to use the word excellence, as long as you strive for excellence. Perfectionism can very often hold us back. And I always coach clients to rather see everything that they do with the intention to achieve excellence in what they're doing.
No, for sure.
How can someone begin to identify their unique strengths and qualities for branding purposes?
Daniel, it starts with introspection. Identifying one's strengths and qualities often begins with deep reflection. You might consider documenting your achievements, your personal triumphs, what brings the best out of you. Equally, you could seek feedback from trusted peers and mentors, as they can offer insights into strengths you overlook. I would recommend exploring psychometric tools and personality tests like the Myers-Briggs type indicator, Strengths Finder, to gain more of a structured understanding of your inherent strengths and qualities. But at heart of the journey, I think being open to learning more about yourself, open to growth, having the courage to showcase your authentic self. It's about mixing your skills, passions, and value into a cohesive narrative that represents you authentically.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Authenticity in all aspects. Yes, I agree there. And then when you talk about psychometric testing and everything, it's exactly where we come from a coaching perspective. It's important that you understand who you are as a person. How do you navigate the world? With what map? How do you look at your map and understanding, and that you have to be open to that. And by the personality tests, you at least gain a bit of more clarity about who you are. How do you respond to the world with your interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships? And also, what are your biases that you carry around from the education and the way that you've been brought up, the culture that you live in? What are your perception biases, and how do you maybe interpret people wrong in the way that they respond to you because they're not responding how you are used to it? So all of that feeds in. And I always say, whether you have problems at home or you have problems at work, they always bleed into each other and blend into each other. And that's why it is so important to start with yourself and understand who you are. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And where are you going with it? And that will automatically help you become better in business, become better as a brand, and vice versa. If you're under pressure all the time at work and you can't even see the forest for the trees, then you lost. And that will then also bleed into your personal life. So all of that goes hand in hand, and it's really important that we are open for development in both areas at any given point in time.
Yeah, definitely. I think real change starts within.
Ian, what role does authenticity play in personal branding from your experience?
Look, I think it's fundamental when it comes to personal branding. It's about being true to who you are at your core and articulating your unique perspective and value consistently across all platforms and all interactions. This helps build a brand that resonates strongly and genuinely with your target audience. And it fosters deep connection rooted in trust and mutual respect. I think in the digital age where we constantly fed with information overload, a barrage of curated perfection, authenticity stands out. It serves as a breath of fresh air that can cut through the noise and touch people on a human level. An authentic personal brand is built on honest narrative and genuine experiences, which can inspire others and cultivate community and like-minded individuals who appreciate the value you bring. So when you uphold authenticity in personal branding, we pave the way for more meaningful connections, heightened trust, and a brand that is recognizable but sincerely admired and respected.
So how do you translate that to your clients? So how do you apply that to your clients, and what difference does that make in the way that you approach your clients in terms of building their personal brand?
Look, I often find clients coming to me that they want to sell something and they think it's going to be a success overnight. When clients approach you, you can immediately see that there's no structure. And when there's no structure, that's when you realize that there are lots of gaps in their personal voice. They don't really know what they are and who they want to be. And that really makes it complicated to kind of expand and to scale. So I often try and start with the basics to try and figure out, what they already know. And clients tend to feel that, those are silly questions because they seem so obvious. But when I take them through the building blocks, at the end, they realize, oh, okay, I actually didn't know that about myself or my brand or my business. And that's when we really find things that can uniquely position them as a business, and differentiate them from the clutter.
Yes. So how can someone overcome the hurdle of self-promotion?
Overcoming the hurdle of self-promotion first involved in a shift in the mindset. It's essential to view it not as a boastful activity, but as an opportunity to share your unique insights, experiences, and the genuine value you can bring to others. When you focus on how your skills and knowledge can benefit others, self-promotion becomes less about selling yourself and more about building authentic connections and fostering mutual growth. It transforms into a space where you can tell a story passionately and articulate the unique perspective that you bring to the table. Engaging in educational content, mentorship, community outreach, and powerful tools for self-promotion. These avenues allow you to showcase your experience naturally and help others, creating a win-win situation. Lastly, remember that everyone, including experts in your field, started from somewhere. Be open about your journey, including your challenges and how you overcome them. Sharing your growth story can serve as a testament to your resilience, inspire others, and build a deeper connection.
Yes, very important. And the self-promotion is something that a lot of people are afraid of, and they don't know where to start. And you get things like the imposter syndrome, and they are afraid to put themselves out into public domain, because you will always have people that will become critiques. You will have people that agree with your vision. They will agree with what you do. And you will have exactly the opposite, where people try to run you down. Competition tries to make you look stupid. There's so many things that we have to deal with, particularly now in a world where everything goes online. You have all your online currents that can hide behind their screens. They don't really voice anything in real life, but they jump onto anything that they see on the internet and try to destroy it or run it down. So I think the hurdle of self-promotion is not only to understand who you are and be your authentic self, but it is also to understand that at a certain point in time, you just have to put it out there and then just run with it. And there will be pushback, there will be different opinions, but it's always important that you find your tribe and that you run with your tribe. You can't make it right for everyone, and I think you shouldn't.
Definitely.
So, what are some of the best practices for using social media for personal branding? Give us some insight into that.
Perfect. Firstly, I think choose platforms that align with your strengths. Consistent posting, engaging with your audience, and sharing content that aligns with your brand voice are key strategies. I can go into much more detail, but perhaps we can discuss this topic on another podcast, Daniel.
Okay, so leveraging social media platforms is important though. Is that something that you deal with your clients? Is that something that you help them with, assist them with, or how do you do that when they come to you for personal branding?
Yeah, so we usually kind of do a proper target market analysis to see where their target market is spending their time and how does that relate to the strengths of the business or the personal brand. And then you try and tie the knots together to see where's opportunities, where can you stimulate conversations, where can you really create a community that can take the conversation further.
Okay, and just as we discussed with the people that won't always necessarily buy into what you do or are critiques, how can individuals handle negative feedback or criticism? What is your suggestion?
Yeah, this is a very difficult one. It is vital to approach criticism constructively. While it's important to stand your ground, being receptive to feedback and willing to evolve can be highly beneficial.
Tell me how that ties in with your clients. How do you discuss this topic with your clients?
All criticism isn't the same. I think it's important to try and understand that criticism is necessary to improve, but try and create criticism friendly environment where it's constructive. It's good to kind of, when people are not happy with something, you need to kind of figure out why they're not happy. Where can you improve? What needs to change? And often that is something that, where you tend to kind of align your thinking. I think when you look at any creative industry, it's very difficult to align people's ideas and thoughts. And when you can speak freely and comment on what you like and you don't like without feeling like people are going to not like what I have to say, I think it's better to fail fast.
Yes. And it is important that we face that if you start deleting or you start trying to control it, you will never see the end of the day. And it is important that we understand that critique comes, it will come all the time, it will come often, and you have to deal with it head on. That creates transparency, it creates trust, brand visibility, and that is just as important for your personal branding as anything else in your strategy, isn't it?
Definitely, diamonds are made under pressure.
100%. What's a realistic timeline from your perspective for seeing tangible results from branding efforts? If you start with a journey, I come to you, I want to start my personal branding from scratch, what timeline should you expect?
I think it's important to know that building a brand is a gradual process. It can often take several months, a few years, but the key is to be consistent in your effort and authentic engagement. So, it could be from a few months to a few years. All depends on, how consistently you can approach it and what are you willing to put in? What is the time, the effort, even the money?
Yes, I agree. Budget is obviously a very important part of it because when it comes to personal branding and it comes to employing experts of the industry or in their field, you will have to have certain budgets. It doesn't mean that you cannot phase it or split it up into project phases and then go along if you don't have the investor or you don't have the budget. But it is important that you understand that there is time involved and that if you have experts that help you with branding, that there is a cost involved as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Share some strategies with me for networking because I think for a personal brand, one of the things that I always say to my clients is you have to network at any opportunity that you get. What is your take on that?
Absolutely. Network should be mutually beneficial process. Start with offering value and build authentic relationships. And the growth of your personal brand will follow naturally. I think there are three things that kind of stand out for me, and it's leveraging social media platforms like LinkedIn, where you can actively engage with content in your field and regularly share insights, attending industry events, conferences and webinars, make a point to attend industry events, be it virtually or in person, to meet like-minded professionals and foster connections. Connect creation and thought leadership. Create a blog, maintain a blog by sharing insights and tips related to your field. It can be a great way to attract and network with people with the same interest.
Absolutely. Networking is everything. I always start with that when I have people that out of ideas or that feel stuck when they are trying to achieve something, or they're trying to build brands, or they're trying to become better as people, as communicators. I say the first thing that you always have access to is network. You have access to social media platforms. You have access to free events. There's so many free events out there where you can just go and you can talk to thought leaders and experts in the industry, people that are willing to share. And then you got YouTube, you got podcasts. There's thousands out there that are completely for free. I never understand when people say that they don't know how to connect and don't know how to get information, because everything is really just right in front of you. You just have to reach out and grab it. And I think that's where a lot of people that I deal with still have problems. Although they have everything at their fingertips, it's on their smartphone, they still don't have a clear concept how to leverage those platforms and what to do with it. And that's where, like helping people with branding and helping people with coaching brings in a lot of value.
No, definitely. I think it's important to get comfortable with throwing yourself in the deep end.
So what are some common mistakes that people make or misconceptions about personal branding that you can recall in your experience dealing with clients?
The most common misconception is that personal branding is just about online presence. It's a holistic process encompassing both online and offline interactions. And I think, the top 5 misconceptions might seem obvious, but people still miss the mark is, people have a one-size-fits-all approach, or they underestimate the value of consistency, they ignore the impact of personal stories, or they overemphasize self-promotion, or neglect offline branding. I mean, if you look at one-size-fits-all approach, many people assume that what works for one person in personal branding will work for everyone. Personal branding should be a personalized process rooted in an individual's unique strengths, values, and their personality. Understanding the value of consistency isn't just about creating a striking logo or having a professional website. It's a continuous effort that demands consistency in your messaging, your aesthetics, the quality of your content that you share across all platforms. Go into the impact of personal stories. People often underestimate the power of personal stories in building a strong personal brand. Sharing authentic stories can really foster a deeper connection and differentiate your brand. My all-time favorite is overemphasis on self-promotion. I think a lot of people struggle with this, where they think that promoting a personal brand is promoting oneself, and they overemphasize the self-promotion of it, which really alienates the audience. It's crucial to balance and focus on adding value to the audience through educational, informative, entertaining content, rather just than talking about yourself. And I think in today's digital age, many people focus solely on personal branding, overlooking the impact of offline interactions.
And when you talk about offline interactions, give us some background on that.
Industry engagements, personal appearances are crucial in building and sustaining a strong personal brand. Like you mentioned earlier, put yourself out there, go out, go have fun, meet people that are like-minded, get comfortable with throwing yourself in the deep end, because when you put yourself under pressure, that's where you really show character and resilience. And I think people in today's world really like that authentic self about people, where they can really put themselves in position where people get the core of you and not the walls that we've constructed around ourselves.
Yes. Authentic self and experience, and have a look behind the curtains, because everyone knows now the highlight reel and the world of social media, where everything always looks perfect and everything always looks like slick. But people want to resonate. People want to know the challenges that you face. They want to hear about your journey, your story. And many brands and many successful brands have understood that now for many years, that it is more important to be authentic and give people something that they can resonate with, where they can say, yep, I get that. I've been there. I've done that. And I came out stronger on the other side. And that is really, really important. So give me some anecdotes. What experiences can you share on your personal branding journey?
I've definitely learned the value of resilience and adaptability. I think it's important to remind ourselves that we all make mistakes, but it's how we bounce back, learn from them, and even share a laugh that truly defines our personal branding journey. I have a few stories, but I think the one that kind of comes to mind is accidental sign off. I recently had an email where at the end of an email, you usually go, kind regards, Ian Ludick. But on this particular day, autocorrect had other plans. Instead, I wrote kind regretations, Ian Ludick.
Oh.
And thankfully, the client had a sense of humor, sent back, hope everything's okay with your stomach, Ian. Needless to say, that was the last time I would just send out an email without double checking or triple checking my email.
Yes, I think these things, particularly when it comes to personal branding, that's the small things where you can make a difference. You will find spelling mistakes in emails. You will find small mistakes on websites. You will find a lot of things. And I guess when you want to create credibility, when you deal with people that you've worked with before and they have a pre-validated authority or presence, then you forgive a lot of things. But if someone connects to me and they want to offer me a service, the first thing that I will do is I will check their online presence. I will check what they are putting out there. And very often then you see that maybe not the same attention to detail is in there. And I've just recently also started rebranding. We went through a whole new logo, CI. We're busy finishing the new webpage and everything. Because when you are trying to gain credibility in any kind of field, it is important that you have a cohesive message, that you have cohesive branding, that whatever you are standing for, your value proposition, your vision and mission, that everything ties into each other. Because when the person looks at you or your profile that doesn't know you, that is the things that they're going to go for to decide whether they're going to connect to you or even take it further. And I would say that many people miss the opportunity to get business or to be considered to work with just by a small mistake that they've made with their branding. What is your take on that?
No, definitely. I think attention to detail has a compounding effect. And often, you see it with juniors starting out in the industry. They tend to make a lot more mistakes, and this almost prevents them from throwing themselves in that deep end and pushing through. At the end of the day, I think, when you start building up experience and you've done this more than once, you start kind of noticing the finer details, what makes a really great project. Not average, not basic, but a really, really great project. And all of the small attentions kind of compound up towards a bigger success. And that's how these big brands are standing out. It's not just about a logo. It's not just about a slogan. It's about how that slogan really voices itself on various aspects of their brand, different channels. Yeah, I think it's definitely a compounding effect, and you need to kind of start small and build with it and build on it and build on it and build on it and respect the process, that it isn't going to happen overnight.
How can individuals measure the effectiveness of their personal branding efforts as they go along and build their brand over time?
I think it's an effort that straddles both tangible and the intangible spectrum. For the tech-savvy individuals, leveraging analytic tools can be extremely beneficial. These tools can provide a host of metrics, including engagement rates, follower growth, website traffic, and clearly showing how well your personal brand is being received. SEO optimization results and conversion rates are key to a strong personal brand. But for the everyday Joe, it might not be about the numbers, but more about the quality of connections and opportunities coming their way. It could be measured through a meaningful conversation that they're having with their audience or their peers, the feedback they are receiving, and even the level of satisfaction they feel with the personal connections they are building. A brand is effective when it can foster strong relationships and create a community of individuals who resonate with what you stand for. Across the board, a reliable measure is to look at the consistency of your personal narrative across various platforms and mediums. Whether you're penning a blog, sharing a tweet, or networking in a local community event, are you telling a cohesive and authentic story?
I think that's it. Cohesion and authenticity. That's exactly my sentiment. What are emerging trends in personal branding for 2023 and beyond for next year? What have you seen? What are the trends that are coming up? What is it important not to overlook? And what is your take on that?
I think the keyword authenticity popped up quite a few times in this conversation, but personalization and authenticity will continue to reign supreme. And we're also seeing a rise in the importance of social responsibility and inclusivity in personal branding. People are looking at the finer detail. People want to feel inclusive. People do not like being excluded. And I think it's not just about race or gender. It's also about the visually impaired. How are you crafting a website that's really helping those that can't see also have the same experience as any other customer?
Inclusivity, yes. And I mean, there you're talking about a huge range of topics that come to mind, and that would be a couple of podcast episodes on itself. But inclusivity has become a real big thing. And if we look at the last 2 years, there has been many brands that almost shot themselves out of the window, really just overseeing or making comments on Twitter that missed the mark of inclusivity. And with everything being connected and the way that the world is interconnected everywhere on every level, some brands have almost doomed themselves by just making one small mistake when it comes to inclusivity.
No, definitely. I think the cancel culture is real.
100%. Ian, can you provide some actionable tips for improving a personal brand?
Absolutely, Daniel. Start with a self audit to understand your current standing, define your goals, and then work on strategies that emphasize your strengths and values. Maintain consistency and be ready to evolve based on the feedback and the changing landscape.
Yes. And how do you apply that to your customers?
I think like most customers would come to you and they want to start strategizing. And I think people need to sometimes step back, be able to see, okay, what are my unique qualities? What are my unique strengths? And then how do that really make me a personal brand? And how can I position myself to authentically tell my story without sounding unreal, with still being inclusive, targeting the audience that can resonate with?
Yes. In terms of potential benefits, what are they in terms of opportunities of having a strong personal brand?
Having a strong personal brand really allows you to kind of put yourself out there, cut through the noise and the clutter of those that are merely doing a copy paste strategy. I think it also allows you to kind of, people take you more serious when you have a very unique brand. People want to know your story when you have a great brand, and they tend to kind of give you opportunities like, the podcast that we're doing today, where you are able to, express yourself and your ideas, your thoughts, and the knowledge that you gain and share them with people that might find interest in them.
Yes. Well, it's important to note that on the Success Blueprint, we always discuss topics and we discuss, as I said in my slogan, strategies to build a life and business you love. And part of that would be a personal brand. But obviously, you can't go dive into deep detail. That's why I bring people like you on the show so that people can connect with people like you if they want to create a personal brand. And then you take it from there and you can build and you can sit together and do all the groundwork that needs to be done. So it's always a good opportunity through the podcast to connect people with each other and help people to find the right entrance and find the right people to connect to. It's again, networking, sharing content, sharing knowledge, and helping people sometimes to find the shortcut where we went the long way. And now at the end of the journey, we can see where the shortcut would have been. And that's what I love about the podcast. It's an opportunity to share with people some shortcuts and help them to get to the goal line sometimes a bit faster. And also to network ourselves and find those opportunities for ourselves, because it is a consistent learning process. It's continuous improvement that keeps us at the top of our game, isn't it?
Definitely.
Do you have any final words of advice for listeners embarking on their own personal branding journeys?
Yes, Daniel. I think if you're starting out, get yourself an account on LinkedIn and start networking. Use simple tools like Canva for creating visual appealing content. Open an account with Udemy to enhance your skills. Those are fantastic resources. But I think when building a personal brand, just remember that it's a continuous journey. Stay true to your core values, be authentic, and don't be afraid to showcase what makes you truly unique. And I think best of all is good luck.
Yes, I agree. And particularly looking at the tools that you mentioned, very often when I look at onto online platforms like I Know a Guy or The Resource, you will very often see that it is still astounding how many people that have access to the internet, access to tools, still don't know how to help themselves. They're asking for people that can do small little designs for them. People, I fully understand that if you want to create high-end media presence, you need experts of your field. But if you are just starting out and you want to build a personal brand, you can ask AI anything. You can find the concepts of design just for your level where you're starting off. And then you put that into Canva that helps you create beautiful designs. And there's a lot of things that you can do in the beginning to save money, to save budget. You can get yourself a complete branding strategy from AI. And I'm not saying that that is the way to go for bigger organizations or for people that really want to move their brand along and become like really recognized in the industry. But if you're starting off with a personal brand, it will definitely help you save some costs here and there, and then position yourself, find out how to do it, connect to the right people. And as you go along, you can increase your portfolio. So yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
for sure. I think practice makes perfect in the end of the day. And there are so many tools out there, like you said. People just need to, kind of put in the elbow grease and, throw themselves in that deep end and start learning and perfect themselves as they go.
Yes. And once you reach that point where you know you can't do it anymore by yourself and where you need some expert advice, that's when you start networking. That's when you get coaches involved. That's when you get people involved like Best Web Design that have done this for many years and have created brands. And then you take it from there. But yeah, anyway, I will definitely put your contact details into the podcast description so that people can connect if they feel like it. I think this was a real valuable insight on personal branding. And obviously, to all our listeners, thank you for the time. Thank you for tuning into the Success Blueprint. If you have any questions regarding this episode or feedback, you know how to do it in the comments. You can contact me directly. My contact details are also always in the podcast description. And we hope that there was some value in there for you, that you had something to take away from this. And I will see you again Monday. This week, unfortunately, some circumstances, they prevented me from uploading an episode, but that doesn't matter. We get back to it. Sometimes we just have to roll with the punches. That's uncertainty, that's resilience, bouncing back and bouncing forward. Ian, thank you so much for being on the Success Blueprint today. I really appreciate your input. And this was the first episode where I had a listener actively on the show that recommended a topic on the internet, actually on Facebook, networking platform. So I'm really grateful that I had you here. And thank you very much, Ian.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It was a pleasure chatting to you. I hope to get another invite soon.
Yes, thank you very much for your time. Guys, that was it. That was Daniel from the Success Blueprint, where we discuss strategies to build a life and business you love. I hope you have a fantastic week and a great weekend to come. And I hear you guys soon. Cheers.